So I've definitely done some fan gushing about Tony J. The guy has a very distinctive voice, and it's easy to connect him to his other roles. The voice actor for Raziel, on the other hand, well, did you know that he voiced Chaz Finster, Drew Pickles, and Grandpa Boris in the Rugrats? Just try to imagine Grandpa Boris as the voice for Raziel. Michael Bell is an older dude with a long career in voice acting. He's still active today, too. He did the voice of Vladimir and Xin Shao in League of Legends, and he was also in Snake Eater as The Fear. He's done some live-action stuff, such as appearing on Star Trek, and he also terrified children back in the 60s in public service announcements. Well, someone had to. And hey, you remember that old Super Friends cartoon? You know, the really terrible one? He was Zan and Gleek. Just again, imagine that with Raziel the Vampire Wraith. Gee whiz, guys, I'll turn into a bucket of water. Just looking at the resume, it makes me curious about the kind of work that he did, where people would just present him a script and say, "This is what we wrote. Please read these lines." You can tell he's got a lot of experience and talent, but he appears in a lot of things that have been really good or ridiculously terrible. Michael Bell is also a politically active member of the Screen Actors Guild, so I get the feeling he's seen a lot of different work ethics and he could tell you a lot about the development of many entertainment industries. He's been in games, movies, television, PSAs, it's nuts. Did I mention he's on the board of directors for the Screen Actors Guild? That's right, the voice of Zan from Super Friends and Lex Luthor in Superman. The voice of Gleek the monkey. Gleek, of all the characters, is actually on a board that determines a lot of cultural output from America. Well, aspects of how it's handled anyway. But it just kinda blows me away though. You never stop to think that the guy behind Grandpa Boris is somebody really important. But anyway, let's get back to our game.
Hello, my name is Taylor, this is Peyton.
You have disrupted the order. Yes.
Well, it's not like there's a set order of how we introduce each other.
No, yes. Not now that you have ruined tradition.
I'm right, I did the intro. I am the star.
You're more like the figurehead.
Nuh-uh. Why, what does that mean?
It means that you're the face that we put on everything, and when something goes wrong, we blame you.
No, that's dumb. Peyton can be the figurehead.
No,
I will
when an
figurehead
episode
you.
isn't funny,
Yes.
we all say, "Oh, sorry everyone, Ray wrote a really bad script today."
That is not true. Everyone, there is no script. Do not believe Taylor.
Line.
Now you say, Ray is the best one of us. Oh.
No, I'm not gonna say that. If I say that, they'll think it's all fake.
Did you guys get a script?
No, there's no script, Peyton. But speaking of scripted things, we are recreating cutscenes.
And the music, too. It's a transformative thing.
So hey, I hope you guys like this cave, because we're gonna see it like 4 or 5 times, I don't know. We visit throughout multiple time periods, and we have to do a different thing every single time. It's not too bad, but the area is just a little bit of a maze.
Are there gonna be ghosty guys throwing stuff at us every single time?
Well, if I remember correctly, yeah.
Sounds like one of those early game design problems. Like, you know how in Mario 64 the camera could be the most annoying part of the game?
Well, there was no second analog stick, so you just had to deal with the camera wherever it went to.
Yeah, and I remember that for the longest time, a lot of dev companies were trying to stick to the old platformer thing. It's really hard to make work with a third-person view, though.
Well, sure, but honestly, Taylor, who would want to play Sonic the Hedgehog if you couldn't spend the whole game looking at the back of Sonic's head?
It worked for Spyro the Dragon series. Yes.
Well, it's really all about the angle of the camera. If at some point the camera gets messed up and it's looking somewhere you don't want it to see, then you can't make your jump.
Oh, and I don't think this game does that thing where you can, like, see through the tree or a pillar if your camera gets behind one.
Yeah, see? Those little nuances, man, you take them for granted now, but they didn't used to be everywhere.
Well, I'm a little bit lost.
Don't run in a circle. Yes.
Go back and ask that ghost for directions.
I don't want to ask the ghost, he just wants to claw me to death.
See, now this is why we call you Ray the Racist, because we tell you to go get directions from a shadow monster, and you say, "I'm not doing that, shadow monsters will kill me."
Well, they hit me in the face.
That's because you barged into their home, unannounced.
That is true. If I were shadow monsters, I would hit you too. Yes.
Okay, well then, by that logic, that's like if I burst into someone's house and then ask for directions.
Maybe it's more like taking a shortcut through someone's lawn.
I used to do that when I was the child. Yes. I would get shouted at.
Well, I think it's too late. Once you break into someone's house and hit them in the face with a soul-sucking wraith blade, you can't really ask for directions anymore.
Okay, that's fine. Just so long as we've established that your terrible, reckless racism is what caused this. We could have been friends with the Shadow People, but now we're gonna have to settle for being a story about that time that blue skeleton guy ran in the house and hit Dave in the head.
I didn't just hit him, I killed like 3 or 4 of them.
And they'll say it in a hushed tone. It'll be a spooky story.
See, this is why we have laws in polite society, so we know who did what, right and wrong. I now found myself in a smelly mosquito den. The scent of methane wafted into my undead nostrils. I think it was still day, but it was really dark anyway. I spotted one of Mobius's time chambers, but it was sealed up, probably because this was a dumb area to build a time chamber.
Very eloquent. Very helpful.
A lot of times the original dialogue has Raziel talking about how he'd maybe later find ways to break into stuff. It's so that when you get the item that you need to get into those doorways or whatever, Raziel goes, "Oh hey, maybe I've got the means to go into that thing, I should go back." In fact, there's an optional cutscene that we missed, and Raziel's gonna refer to it later. Or he would, except we're changing the cutscenes.
Comes off as just a bit contrived sometimes.
Yeah, I wonder if that's maybe why more games focus on linear progression now.
I don't know. This game's approach probably saves time for, like, graphical design, but it probably takes a bit longer to map out how you're gonna unlock certain areas at certain times.
So what are Mobius's henchmen doing in the swamp? Yes.
Probably guarding the rich malaria reserves.
Well, maybe Mobius has a really good environmental protection policy. I mean, being the Time Guardian, he sees far advanced into the future, so he might worry about that kind of stuff.
I guess it would get exhausting being corrupt and evil all the time.
Yep. Boom! Bitches be tripping!
Hey, get off the... Shoot.
It seemed my little testosterone outburst had been observed by a vampire. He probably heard me with those great big ears. I was now having one of those moments where you feel really good before you realize you have an audience, and then afterward you feel like kind of a doofus. It occurred to me that kicking down that door was not as impressive as it felt, especially because those ears could only belong to the famed vampire Vorador. Vorador was one of Nosgoth's oldest vampires, and by that virtue one of the strongest. Rumor had it that he was only killed because he got pissed drunk before facing down an elite force that had every possible advantage. If it was indeed Vorador watching me, I could only pray that he was at least that drunk.
Can you imagine how weird it would be to meet a famous person and know exactly how they were gonna die and when it was gonna happen?
Oh, it'd be so awkward, I can just imagine. Oh hey, Nicholas II, Tsar of Russia? Hey! How's it going? Going to a naval war against Japan, huh? Gosh, good luck. Yeah, this Rasputin guy, that sounds like a great healer for your son. Woo!
It's like, do you tell him? Or...
No, honestly, I don't think he'd want to hear it.
There is little point in trying to communicate failure to the rich and successful, yes. But the masses will hear your message. Unto them you become the prophet.
It was a strange time politically. The Tsar had come to realize that reform was necessary, but every time he made a reform, he did so in a way to kind of keep the power structure as it was. The case was that every reform was just to placate people. It was pretty much all just public relations. Of course, you can only play the PR game for so long if everyone can see that you're intent on not making changes.
See? Stuff like that. The Tsar was surrounded by signs that things were going badly, and he didn't fix it. So what even would happen if a blue, soul-eating time traveler ran out of the mountains and said, "Nicholas, everything is going badly"?
I think it would open Nicholas's eyes, yes. Then he would double up his efforts to keep doing the same thing.
He'd say, "I understand the problem, and I understand that we must continue doing the wrong thing, but harder. We cannot admit that I am wrong."
This sounds like the premise for the entire Legacy of Kain series, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what Kain is all about. I mean, Kain actually looks somewhat into the future and past and sees what's going wrong, and he says, "I have to keep doing the wrong thing, but more actively."
Kain is truly the best leader, yes.
Well, he's the leader of nothing now, since all of his minions are basically dead.
Point being, I guess, that if you told Vorador what was gonna happen to him, you probably couldn't stop Vorador from being Vorador.
If being a power-blind vampire is wrong, then why bother being right?
This is a very long walking sequence. And pause. Continue. Hurry up, Raziel. Yes.
I passed an opening in the cliff face. Normally I wouldn't stop to dwell on this sort of thing, but every now and then I'm reminded about how useful wings would be, and then I'm angry because someone yanked them out of my back. Raziel has a lot of moments like that in this game.
I felt that same way when I played Oblivion, yes. I had gotten used to levitation in Morrowind.
Levitation was such a useful power. It's kinda sad how the Elder Scrolls series seems to lose options in every sequel.
Hey Ray, try and say that 5 times fast.
It's sad how the Elder Scrolls series seems to lose options in every sequel. I can't do it 5 times.
I thought you might have a tongue twister there.
She sells seashells by the seashore. Rubber baby buggy bumpers.
I don't think you passed on the second one.
Aw, I was close though.
We keep seeing these green fires. How are they acquired? Yes.
Well, it's either with magic or with absurdly wasteful chemistry. So, probably magic. Vorador appeared to be gone, or in a gaseous state maybe, it's hard to tell with some vampires. But that thought became trivial as I realized the ruins I was in. They bore the same markings as the pillars, and also featured a door branded with an image of the Reaver.
Boy, it sure is nice the way that ancient ruins have the tendency to collapse on the outside, but are still totally impregnable.
Man, that ancient race sure knew how to build buildings that only one guy could get into. It's a real shame, you know, that none of their other structures survived, like libraries with instructions as to why they did this.
Well, that would be really boring. That's like Gilligan's Island asking why don't they build a raft.
Well, cause then the show would be over. But you know, with this game, we've got a lot of arrogant jerks. You could tell them everything there is to know, and they would just keep on making up new conflict, cause that's what arrogant jerks do.
Behold! It is the Zombleton!
Zomblers again? Man, how come I can't go anywhere in life without zomblers?
Well, what else should be hanging around an ancient temple?
I don't know, like eldritch horrors or something? How about monsters with a bunch of tentacles and a starfish head? Or slender gray humanoid creatures that crawl out of the cracks in the wall? Demons chained to the area to guard it for all eternity?
To be fair, this game was released before the big zombie craze, so it's not like this was old hat at the time. Aside from that, like you've mentioned, the game was rushed, so they didn't have a lot of options for designing these guys. Oh wait, did that thing not make a sound?
Yeah, no sound on that one, I didn't do anything to it. But anyway, there is a little bit more variety later on, but there's really not a whole lot. All the humanoid enemies are basically the same, so it doesn't change up very much, and that's why it gets kinda boring. At least in terms of combat.
It is too bad the combat suffers in this game. Yes.
Oh well, it's alright, we're about to run into our first gauntlet of puzzles. This is the Darkness Temple, the Temple of Darkness. The ancient teenagers used to go here and they would smoke cigarettes behind the dumpsters. They would stand around and say, "Mom and Dad don't understand me." The temple was run by an old guy with a very long beard. Sometimes the old guy didn't wear pants, but people didn't comment much because they didn't really like to go to the Darkness Shrine anyway. It's sorta gloomy and depressing. Sometimes the old guy would make moonshine in his room, and the authorities just kinda looked the other way, cause he's sorta harmless and most people didn't buy moonshine from him anyway, he just drank it by himself. He would tend to sit in his room and just think about how things might have been different if he hadn't gotten castrated and become the Darkness Shrine priest.
Boy, you sure know a lot about the Darkness Shrine. Does Raziel fill us in on this? Or is that in the murals, or...?
Nah, it's easy to figure out if you know a little bit about human psychology. I'm pretty sure if you had a shrine that was really secretive, that would be pretty much how it would work. Also, the priest, his name is Larry, and his uncle used to be a priest, but everyone kind of forgets that because Larry's been around for a long time. Also, most people can't really remember why they have a Darkness Temple, because only Larry can get in and out, and only when he has the Reaver, which is not very often because there's only one Reaver in the whole world.
This is a very convoluted religion. Yes.
Well, Larry is a very convoluted individual. That golden disc, that had to be placed on the altar at 3 o'clock, precisely on the dot, every single day. It had to be removed at 5 o'clock, but Larry died at 4:30 p.m. Someone was scheduled to come by and check on Larry with a new supply of food and water in like a couple days, but then the entire race died off, so no one found out. Also, I can't get up there.
Maybe there was no Larry, and they sealed up the temple as they left.
No, there was a Larry and he died and it was very tragic, no one ever found out.
Well, it just kind of makes more sense that they would use the Reaver to lock the door on the way out, rather than having someone locked in all this time.
No, that's dumb. Someone has to watch the place in case, like, kids break in.
But there are no children's because the race is dying. Yes.
No, Larry had to stay, because there was, like, a couple kids and they were always up to trouble and...
Right. No, we use Occam's razor. We know that the race was dying off, so we assume that they made a plan based on the fact that they were dying off.
Well, guess what?
What?
Guess what?
What?
Occam's razor is when you make the fewest number of assumptions and you are assuming there was no Larry. Taylor.
Well, you assume there is Larry.
I found more murals of the winged race. They were depicted again in battle. This must have been the most influential moment in their history. Either that or the most popular among artists. I noticed on that thought that there were no naked women in the mural, which might have gone some length to explain why their race collapsed. Maybe they didn't think about babies very much. But they were really fond of the Reaver. Also, barely legibly scrawled in graffiti were the words, "Larry was here."
Oh, cheater! Cheater! You cheated Larry into existence!
He's canon now, he's canon! You can't take him back!
That's not true. You didn't say what Larry did, you just said Larry was here. For all we know, he's one of the zombies.
No, because he's the high priest and... Oh, shoot, wait a minute.
What?
There's a lot of zombies in here. Yes.
Yeah, there kinda is.
So you're saying that Larry could be one of the zombies, or...?
No, I'm saying, look at how many zombies we're running into.
They sealed them all in here. They sealed them in here alive. Yes.
There was a whole lot more than just Larry in this place.
Oh. Shoot. The ancient race was screwed up in the head.
Oh, okay. We're being shown the layout of the big puzzle room. There's the mood crystal, which activates...
Connected to a horseshoe.
The horseshoe, the lucky horseshoe, which goes into the tube.
The tube!
Tube of
Repentance!
darkness. Sorry. But we'll dwell on this for now and figure it out next week. Thanks for playing with us, everybody.